So I'll try to tone it down. There are level of keys that when you check this evidence against this key, it should give you the same result every day, every time. And so this means that this evidence has not been tampered with. We know that technology also provides for you to, we used to call it photoshopping way back. They get your face, then they put you at a bank and they show you, my brother, that you are the one who robbed. So we have to be able to unpack this image to demonstrate. The beauty of such evidence, we have now the call data records that will also show where you are. Probably if you access the building and you use your biometric, that is also evidence enough that you were in the building. And your identity is as good as you in the Electronic Transactional Signatures Act. So it's a series of things that court will want to look at to then say, is this evidence admissible in courts of law? And then critical of it is that also to understand that this evidence is volatile. So if it is not preserved in time, that means there are chances that we cannot easily get it. There's certain evidence that is by certain service providers that are not even in this jurisdiction. And those are some of the challenges here and there. And that's why I think that personal data protection has been compelling companies that are resident here or that have data they collect from Ugandans should be able to have what we call a storage within this jurisdiction of Uganda. One, for purposes of ensuring that data sovereignty is complied to, but also to quicken investigation. And so that's why you wonder why other developed countries, in a short time, something has happened, and in a split of seconds, they have it, because these servers are actually easily stored in their jurisdiction, which is, I think, a culture that we should be introducing to the different people in the industry of innovation.
Speaking of jurisdiction, my other question was on almost on the same. How do you deal with the cross-border criminality, in the digital world?
That's a very complex area because many times you're depending on what we call mutual legal assistance with specific countries because they have the right to store this data and you may need it as evidence in your country. Now, there's what we call residual evidence that could remain in this country that we could depend upon. But I would like to also inform those who are listening that as Africa, we passed the Malabo Convention, which is a global law for Africa that focuses on data protection and privacy. And then there's the UN Convention, the Budapest Convention. Now, thanks to events that have been happening, NAM and G77, such blocks allow countries to jointly agree on statutes, on protocols that they will follow. This means that they will cooperate in data exchange. They will also open up as long as you follow their protocols as a law enforcement officer. Today, if my brother, you walked there, Google may not give it to you. But if Uganda is represented through the Office of the Foreign Affairs and the legal officer, police officer, then they will cooperate. So it's a matter of cooperation. Otherwise, many times cross-border crime is complicated because even getting access to the information sometimes can be very complicated and difficult. But the good thing is that the more we keep building blocks, the global south, global north, these globes, people are asking, what's the use of NAM? What's the benefit of G77? As long as we get together, we will be able to do many things actually faster and support in ensuring security that can foster development.
Oh, thank you, Afandi. Mr. Obo, our topic today is taking charge of your privacy. You came up with the theme, stop, think, and own your privacy or their privacy. Any initiatives that stay after the month has ended for us to keep, refreshing ourselves, especially to keep ourselves safe?
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Magezi. Again, that's a very good question. I'll start with what has been happening before. So I always tell people that data protection is not something for one day. Yeah? If we came and had a conference here today and it ended, and we even thought that after that day, data protection compliance is at 100, would be lying. The reason for this is, as soon as I walk out there, a CCTV camera is going to pick my picture, meaning my personal data has actually been collected. You see? So the question becomes, how is the server room? Is it safe? How is the data center and all that? You see, yeah? So what the PDPO has done and has kept on doing is every end of the month, the last Thursday of the month, there is a webinar that is conducted. We call a number of experts and they train different people. So these webinars are made available on the different platforms. Information on how to attend them is made available. But also very importantly is that the different communication channels of the PDPO, of NITAU, constantly provide information on security, on how you can ensure your security while you're online, on how you can secure your personal data. So we also go to different companies because we appreciate that they're the ones who collect information. And when we go to these companies, we tell them that one, every person in Uganda has a right to the privacy of their personal data. That is a citizen or a non-citizen, because the Data Protection and Privacy Act applies to both citizens and non-citizens. To citizens, even when they are outside Uganda, but to non-citizens only when they are within Uganda. That is the scope of application. So we tell them that this law applies to all of them. We also tell them that they have a mandate, they have an obligation to ensure that they comply with this law. How do they comply? There are principles that are provided for in the law. The first one is that they have to be transparent as they are collecting and using personal data. They need to be able to inform people how they use that data. The other one is that they have to be accountable. Who should they be accountable to? They have to be accountable to the data subject themselves. They have to be accountable. Data subject is the person from whom personal data is collected. They also have to be accountable to the regulator, who is the Personal Data Protection Office. They have to be accountable to their board to ensure that they are compliant. So how do they do this? All companies are required to have a data protection officer. That data protection officer ensures compliance and is always supported by the PDPO in compliance. What else do we tell them? We tell them that this law creates offenses. Now that's where Afande comes in. It creates offenses and it also prescribes their penalties. In fact, one of the highest penalties should be in this law, because if a company is found to be in breach, up to 2% of its annual gross turnover could be the fine. And even that person who, let's say, shared personal data without authority could be arrested or fined as well. So the PDPO is conducting awarenesses. There are webinars every month. It constantly comes up with compliance assessments. It conducts assessments, but also has provided a tool where companies can constantly assess themselves to see whether they are compliant or not. So data protection is not something only for this month. This month only appreciates and amplifies the need for data protection. It's a daily job and it's done every day. Thank you.
As we come to the close of the show, any parting words for Ugandans?
For me, first is that one, you should be very, very selfish with your personal data. I'll use the word selfish. The reason is, like Afande already said, they say personal data is the new oil or the new gold. Why do they say this? Oil and gold are very valuable. Now today, with your personal data, a big tech giant can be able to conduct analysis, come up with, let's say, what they call data mining. They mine and refine this data and are able to come up with AI models, able to come up with different machine learning algorithms. So with the data that you're putting outside there, it's important that, like Afande already said, data minimization, only give out what is required. If someone, if to receive that service, you don't need to tell people your race, don't tell them your race. If you don't need to tell them your grandfather's name, do not tell them your grandfather's name. The other thing also that I need to stress as I come to an end is that very important, the theme for this month of the Data Protection Month is stop, think, own your privacy. What does that mean? Each time you get on your phone, you're getting onto a new social media account. Stop. Think of whether you should give out that data to that particular social media account. Go to their privacy notice. See whether they'll keep it safe. And after looking at all that is when you can say that you've owned your privacy and agreed to maybe give them the data because they're actually going to keep it safe. So if there is anything you should take away, stop, think, own your privacy. Again, to just thank maybe GCIC for giving us this opportunity. We are open to many of these because we believe Ugandans need to know about these rights they have. These rights are not given to them. They are inherent, and therefore no one can say that we once gave you this right. It's an inherent right. Thank you so much, Comrade Magezi, for this.
GCIC promises to call you back, please, because that is what me and you should be doing, telling the public how to protect themselves. Madam Bonita, are you on, and you give us what? Okay, then I will go to Afande. As we conclude, you can, this one you can answer, you can leave it.
Sure.
When we were having a conversation with Afande Magambo,
Yes.
he told us you were trying to create a system, I think like an intranet kind of system. If a crime happens in Soro, it's entered into the system. Even you here, you can see it from Kampala. How far as you conclude?
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to pick it up from there that as the Uganda Police, we've started what we call the EPIS, which is the electronic policing system, where we are saying we have to develop what we call a single master database that will be able to enable us to aggregate all our different functions. So one of those is to actually up the electronic crime tracking system. This is something that is already being done with the JILOS, the different players, the DPP, judiciary, and so we are in the final stages of getting this out of the way. So because of distance is no longer an issue when it comes to accessibility. Right now, some of you are using accounts like Gmail and you have never paid for it.
Sure.
You've never even met anybody who introduced you, but you're working comfortably. You can watch news across from any scope of this world because of the comfort now with your mobile phone. So that's something, a work in progress, I can inform you. And we look forward to that time where we'll then agree and even decide with citizens that when you have your person apprehended, you who is the next of kin, you will receive a notice that actually your person has been apprehended or this person has left court. And all this will create transparency. But when we talk of transparency, we are not saying that everything will be in the open. It's on need-to-know basis and who has privilege. As my parting shot says, what we call the least privilege theory and the zero trust theory. And as people are listening there, that it's very important to know what you have access to. If you are such a user in an organization who's an administrator, you have actually a high stake in the organization. If you are back, you actually would not want to have more rights because then you become more prone. But to those who are listening, like the parents, our children are now getting back to school anytime, and they have been watching quite a number of things. It's very important that we remind them of privacy, we remind them of their rights when they're online, and we continue to speak to them that actually we don't take away the gadgets from them, but teach them how to behave what we call responsibly. When we have responsible citizens, then we shall have responsible decisions, and in that way we shall be able to take critical decisions as a country. To those who, and to PDPU, I thank you so much for amplifying the need for data privacy and stressing the fact that we need to stop, think, and actually take charge of our privacy, because it's your privacy, it's your data, it's your footprint that can determine whether you can move to the next step or go backwards. We need to minimize discrimination as much as possible. I wouldn't want to walk into a room and they know all your medical status. Some people may not want to interact with you, but because the health sector is also another critical area that has very sensitive data, as police, we are also a very critical area that we deal with very sensitive data. So we will slowly by slowly be unpacking. I know the public is asking, they want to look at footage of every incident, but it's a process that we want to follow and ensure that we only release what court needs, not the entire footage to the entire public. And once we've disclassified it, then we publish it actually to the public. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Afande Jimmy Aguma, Head Electronic Countermeasures Department at Uganda Police. Thank you, Bonita Mulerengi, Policy and Data Protection Advocate. Thank you, Mr. Ian Solomon Obo, Regulation and Compliance Officer at NITA. I hope to have you soon again. Thank you, our listeners. Good night.